This
is TLV1.
TLV1 radio.
Great mixture.
I like television.
This is still V1.
This is
Tel Aviv is a beautiful city.
Great city, great radio.
TLV1.
This is TLV1.
The Tel Aviv Review with Gilad Halpern.
Hello and welcome to the Tel Aviv Review, a program dedicated to the word, to the thought and to debate. I'm your host, Gilad Halpern. And on today's show, we'll be speaking to Adva Naama Baram, who is an architect and a photographer specializing in architectural photography. She will talk about her new exhibition showing at the Architects House Gallery in Jaffa these days, and it's dedicated to ezrat nashim, the women's sections in synagogues across the country. It is the culmination of 18 months of research on the topic, and she has quite a few insights into the place of women in synagogues and beyond. Our second guest will be Professor Shlomo Sand, who just retired from a decades-long teaching position at the Department of History at Tel Aviv University. He's probably better known as the author of the bestselling The Invention of the Jewish People, which was the first book in a trilogy that just saw its final chapter appearing in English. It is called How I Stopped Being a Jew. Professor Sand will tell us his secret, how to stop being a Jew, and why should one bother. This is our show for today. The Tel Aviv Review will be right back after this musical break.
Color in your cheeks. Do you ever get that feel that you can't shift, the type that sticks around like summits in your teeth? Are there some aces up your sleeve? Have you no idea that you're in deep? I dreamt about you nearly every night this week. How many secrets can you keep? Cause there's this tune I found that makes me think of you somehow, and I play it on repeat until I fall asleep, spilling drinks on my settee. Do I wanna know if this feeling flows both ways? Sad to see you go. Sorta hoping that you'd stay. Saying things that you can't say tomorrow day. Crawling back to you. Never thought of calling when you left you, cause I always do. Maybe I'm too busy being lost to fall for somebody new. Now I thought it through. Crawling back to you. So have you got the goods? Been wondering if your heart's still open, and if so, I wanna know what time it should. Simmer down and poker up. I'm sorry to interrupt, it's just I'm constantly on the cusp. I've tried to kiss you. I don't know if you feel the same as I do, but we could be together if you wanted to. Do I wanna know if this feeling flows both ways? Sad to see you go. Was sorta hoping that you'd stay. Didn't we both know that the nights were mainly made for saying things that you can't say tomorrow day? Crawling back to you. Never thought of calling when you better feel, cause I always do. Maybe I'm too feeling flows both ways. We're sort of hoping that you'd stay. We both know that the nights were mainly made for saying things that you can't say tomorrow day. Do I wanna know? Too busy being lost to fall. Ever thought of calling down? Do you want me crawling back to you?
This is TLV1, broadcasting from Tel Aviv on TLV1.fm, and you're listening to the Tel Aviv Review. Welcome back. I'm now joined here in the studio by Adva Naama Baram, who's an architect and a photographer specializing in architectural photography. She has a new exhibition that's currently showing at the Architects House Gallery in Jaffa, and it's dedicated to ezrat nashim, the women's section in synagogues across the country. That exhibition is a culmination of 18 months of research, of architectural academic research about the role of ezrat nashim in the space also known as a synagogue. Hello, Adva, and welcome to the Tel Aviv Review.
Hi, thank you.
So the interesting thing about synagogues, the architecture of synagogues, is that there aren't really any fixed rules. Synagogues around the world and in Israel as well have been built in rather a random manner. Was your impression after studying so many synagogues that firm conclusions about ezrat nashim can actually be drawn?
Well, of course, there's no firm conclusions. The project was meant to ask questions, and especially architectural questions about the role of this subspace or non-space called women's. I actually prefer to call it women's wing, because I like the dual meaning. Under women's wing is actually exposing women's power, the spiritual power that women have during the prayer. When I set out to photograph, what I was looking for was to capture the moment, the spiritual moment of how I thought was as an utopistic, and I thought that the women's power is more of like the wind between under the sails of the man's prayer.
Right. Okay. So they're basically to give the prayer that's conducted by the men some sort of impetus and momentum.
Right.
And how is it translated
Actually,
into? I mean, can you explain it to us in terms of space and designing how this idea is implemented?
Well, of course. I came across all kinds of a wide variety of women's sections. Ones that are carefully planned, ones that had a lot of, spectacular section and decorative and festive and spacious. And on the other hand, I came across women's sections that were more like a storage room where you clean, you set out put the cleaning things.
Yeah. So was your project? I'm trying to understand. Was it like a critical look on the way, on the place of women in prayer? Is it subversive? Do you wish to make a statement, a political statement about the place of and power of women in Judaism?
Well, no, I wouldn't say a political statement because it's obvious and it's already there. I would like to make an architectural statement as an architect. What's important for me is to bring back the power architectural has in our society, in planning our society. I think the future synagogues should be planned as the women's section should be the focus. of the architectural planning.
Mm-hmm. Which is obviously currently not the case.
Well, it's not the case. Women are really exposed, and they are also they are put aside. I've come
In some of the synagogues that feature in the exhibition, there isn't a women's wing at all. I mean, they are cast aside quite literally. They are supposed to sit outside of the synagogue, outside of the building.
I came across some interesting synagogues where all the ezrat nashim, the women's wing, was actually a few folded chairs outside the synagogue. Sometimes it was only the courtyard. Sometimes women sat together in the backyard. Sometimes the partition tells you a lot about the feeling you can have as a woman sitting there. And
for example,
the partitions could be somewhat of metal bars, like in a prison, and sometimes the partition is something like lace and very gentle and very feminine. And sometimes there are no partitions at all. Sometimes the architectural space is planned so that women actually sit in the row, but they cannot see anything that's going on downstairs. You actually have to only take part by hearing.
But there's always very clear separation between men and women in those synagogues that are all Orthodox, I'm assuming.
Right. They're Orthodox. These are the ones that I focused on. These are the ones that were interesting for me because I was interested in this non-space slash subspace called ezrat nashim. I think it's really something to be studied. I think my study is only the beginning. I feel that I have a lot of more questions open than closed.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how would the future synagogue look like? I think that women... I think that actually the fact that there is a women's wing is something that we can look at it as something inviting, because we're already tired of looking at it as something that is separated and cast out. That's already been spoken about for too long.
Yeah.
And
So
I think
what do you think
a new
is
and refreshing a new and refreshing look at it is something more positive.
So what do you think is your main contribution to this discussion by actually showing those pictures and not just talking about them?
Yeah, first of all, opening the debate. I think getting people to think again and think about it and talk about it.
And
I
actually
think,
see it. So maybe it's a picture is worth 1,000 words, perhaps.
Of course. There's no doubt about that. I've been to a lot of synagogues. Some of them couldn't even be in the exhibition because we had to reduce.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to ask you about that. How did you choose which synagogue to go to, and then which synagogue, which picture to include in the exhibition?
Well, that's a very interesting question. It was a very challenging working with my two curators, which they are also architect Rivka Gutman and architect Eran Tawil. And we, as a crew, we discussed a lot the synagogues that would be interested to research and interesting for the public to see and know. We try to get a variety of synagogues, but actually a lot of what happened during the project, as you said, it was a 18-month and even more research. So as I went along to photograph and on the field, בשטח. So people saw me, approached me, and told me, you have to go to this synagogue and you have to go to this. People really took interest in this project. So I had on my iPhone a list of synagogues that just people told me, you have to go to this one. This is a great ezrat nashim, and this one is very interesting. So it just in Hebrew you say kara mor v'gidim. How do you say it in English?
Took shape.
It just took shape as we went along. We actually had about more than almost 2,000 photographs.
Wow.
We had to reduce the exhibition to 27, and it was very hard.
Two examples really stand out, in my opinion, at least. One of them is the military synagogue. Two synagogues, the old one and the new one,
Right.
in the Officers Academy in the Bahad Echad base in Mitzpeh Ramon in the south of Israel. And the other one is an ancient synagogue in the village of Pki'in in the north. What can you tell us about those two examples and how the relationship with the other more, say, mainstream synagogues shed light on what you were seeking to achieve?
Well, if you're talking chronologically speaking, so the Pki'in synagogue is a very ancient synagogue. It was built in the time that really women were left out, and there was no room for women to come. Not only physical room, but mentally. Women were actually told, stay at home and do the cooking. And if women came along to the synagogue, they usually gathered up at the courtyard. The courtyard on the way to the synagogue, not actually
right
in the synagogue. There was no space for them at all, not even in theory. And then we have progressed, and the new synagogue in Bahad Echad is a very
the military base. Yeah,
the military base. It's a very planned synagogue. There was a lot of thought put in it. I think the synagogue, architecturally speaking, has a very interesting dialogue with the desert, because it's located in the desert. And the women's wing over there is something to be asked a question about, because I don't think the architect really took. I don't think he was thinking about the women when he planned that. I don't think that the major issue was the women.
But that's exactly the questions. Do architects who plan and design synagogues even take the women's section into consideration, or was it just a footnote in the planning process that is kind of left out?
Well, I came across, as I said, lots of examples. Sometimes the women's section is the diamond in the crown jewel. Sometimes the women's section is something to be proud about. It's usually separated.
But is it something that comes about already in the planning process, or is it something that the community and the congregation itself kind of create?
I think this is the most crucial question, what you just asked. It's such an important question. I think when it's always a result as a planning. And I think that most of the synagogues that I've come across has a lack of planning, and that's why the women's section is like a totzar levai. How do you say it in English? A byproduct. It's something that is okay. Now we are finished, and it looks like we forgot something, so now we have to put it somewhere, and that is just that's the main question here. How do we bring it to the main center? How do we make it the backbone of the planning of the synagogue?
Your collection focuses almost solely on Israeli synagogues. Do you consider taking this endeavor to other places in the world, and if so, which ones, and what will you try to achieve?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'll just say that I've started photographing in Europe. And I've photographed synagogues in Vienna, in Dubrovnik, in Berlin, and in London. And then after consulting with my two curators, we saw that there are so many synagogues in Israel. Only in Jerusalem there are thousands, literally thousands of synagogues. Well, I won't say thousands, but hundreds. So we said that the first exhibition should focus in Israel. And the next exhibition, which will be, it's like a sequence, it will be continued. So then I'm really hoping to diverse it
in your
with
experience so far, is the diasporic experience for women in synagogue different from the one in Israel, or is it kind of the same questions and same themes emerge?
Well, that's very interesting because I don't think it's a question of locality. I think it's a question of chronology in time. As we progress and as we go further in time, of course, our minds open. Of course, the prayer is something that is not. It doesn't belong anymore only to people who are religious. Prayer is something that is more spiritual. People are opening up spiritually. They understand the power of the prayer. So as we go along, I think the synagogues is getting back to where it started from, as being something spiritual and not only something religious. I think. Am I making myself clear on that?
Absolutely, yeah. And this is precisely that. But I'm afraid, Adva Naama Baram, that this is all we have time for today. We've had more than a taste of your really fascinating a project that's now showing at the Architects House Gallery in Jaffa until the end of the month, and hopefully later on it will open again in other places across Israel and hopefully in the world. I mean, it has a great meaning for Jews and non-Jews around the world.
Yes,
in general,
it will go around.
Yeah. So So
to a worldwide journey.
I encourage all our listeners to visit the exhibit when it comes to some gallery near them. So that was the Ezrat Nashim, the exhibition that's dedicated to women's sections in synagogues across Israel.
I would translate it in English, under women's wing.
Under women's wings.
Yeah.
Okay.
The dual.
Yeah, absolutely. Adva Naama Baram, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gilad.
You're listening to TLV1. This is the Tel Aviv Review. Thank you for joining us. I am now absolutely delighted to be joined here in the studio by Professor Shlomo Sand, who just retired from decades-long teaching position at the Department of History at Tel Aviv University. Is probably better known as the author of the bestselling The Invention of the Jewish People, which was the first book in a trilogy that just saw its final chapter appearing in English, which is called How I Stopped Being a Jew. It is published these very days. Today. Oh, even better.
Yeah.
By Verso. Hello, Professor Sand, and thank you for joining us here.
Good morning.
So, how I stopped being a Jew. Tell us your secret. How did you stop being a Jew? Is it even possible at all? Because I'm assuming that quite a few people would disagree with you.
Yeah, two categories. Anti-Semitic will not agree with me, because for them, it's essentialist to be a Jew. And also the Zionists cannot accept the fact that somebody decide to choose who he is. Anyway, I want to make clear that I never was a Jew, because I never was a believer. I'm very, very far any belief in God, in the Jewish God or other gods, and I try to explain it in the beginning of the book. And I consider myself all my life as a secular Jew. And today I'm sure...
So you are considering yourself a Jew, only a secular one, not in the religious context.
In the past.
Oh, in the past. Okay.
Yes, and even today I agree that Judaism, secular Judaism, has identity, exists, because there are so many people that define themselves Jews without being believers. Mm-hmm. But as a historian, anthropologist, if you want, or cultural historian, I ask myself, what is the meaning being a Jew without believing in God or practicing the Jewishness? And I decided that something is wrong. I mean, that you cannot find a common culture to the Jews in the world that are not believers. We have a past. We had a past. But I don't think that we have a present and not a future, the secular Jew. Then, it was simple for me to decide that I'm not... At the beginning, it started by reading Bertrand Russell. He wrote an essay, a very important one in the 20s, I think, Why I'm Not a Christian. It was the beginning, an idea to write this book. The title was the beginning, Why I'm Not a Jew.
Right.
After Bertrand Russell wrote, Why I'm Not Christian. Then I explained that I don't believe in God. I have not a Jewish culture. I have an Israeli culture. I mean, I'm speaking Hebrew, but Woody Allen cannot understand me. Most of the Jews in the United States cannot understand not my daily language, not the theater of Israel, not the cinema of Israel. What is common between me?
A sense of community, perhaps.
You see, this is the problem. Sense of community can exist, and it's legitimate. The vegetarian, the people that love dogs, has also a sense of community. If we speak about England, you see the people that love pets, has a sense of community. In the university,
but they exist. Therefore, they exist. There are vegans in the same way that there are Jews, only perhaps not in the conventional sense of being
Exactly. This is
Jewish.
the reason that even if I wasn't a believer, never in my life, I consider myself a Jew, because I think, especially as a historian, because Jews suffer in the past, it was important for me to define myself as a Jew. Mm-hmm. I try to explain the book why, and I will make it very, very simple. I'm living in a state that defines itself as a Jewish state. A quarter of the population is not Jew. It means that I'm a privileged person.
Yeah.
I don't accept. Because my Jewish origin, and I insist, my Jewish origin, I cannot accept to be a privilege from the point of view of laws in a state that defines itself as a Jewish state when a quarter of the population is not Jew. I have students, Palestinian Israeli students, that the state declare that it's not their state. This is one of the reasons that I decided that being in Israel...
But aren't you barking up the wrong tree? I mean, if there's a problem with the way the state is constructed, so, a lobby for a redefinition of Israel as a Jewish state, why did you undergo this personal journey of whether you're a Jew or not?
Correct. Correct. Good questions. To answer simple, the fact that as a Jew I'm a privileged person, I don't want to be. Then I can fight against the definition of this state. But by the way, I don't believe it's a Jewish state. Yeah? To fight against the principle and to declare that I want an Israeli republic. I did it till the last years. This was my position. But
a republic in the sense that it doesn't allow itself to one section in the population, but to the entire population. In that republic, in that sense,
a republic, the fact that the state belongs to the citizens and not to other people that are not working, dying, crying, speaking the language, and all this. And the fact is that for Bibi Netanyahu, Israel is the state of the Jews in the world. I mean, it belongs much more to Sheldon, that my student that working with me in the University of Tel Aviv, and are not from Jewish origin, not only Arabs, by the way, immigrants from Russia, Ukraine also. Then your question is correct. Why stopping? Because, you see, I don't believe that there is a Jewish culture, secular culture. Sense of community is very important. But when I started to lose this sense of community, because I think politically, this sense of community is used by the Israeli state to justify things that I cannot justify politically. But in the book, I explained something else about it. I was in London. I gave a lecture in London. It was a very, very good discussion there between the people. And the moderator, you say in English, moderator, the person that moderate was...
moderator,
Moderator, sorry. The moderator was a professor from Oxford, I think, a philosopher. It was very, very strong for me, politically. But he said that he is a Jew and he believed that the Jewish people exist, and etc., etc. And in the discussion, in the audience, I see that a few people that I imagined that were from the Middle East. You understand? They didn't take any. They didn't take any word. And most of the people, when I say that I feel less and less in this historical situation as a Jew. Suddenly, I ask him, in which way you are a Jew? He say, it's a sense of community, the things like this. Yeah. They say, you see, you have children, then which kind of Jewish culture you can, if you are not, if you are secular, which kind of Jewish culture you can transmit to your children? He say, I don't know. By the way, he say, I'm divorced and my children are not my children and all this. Right. They are Christian.
No, but I can answer the question for you.
No, I didn't finish.
Oh, okay.
And suddenly, I felt very badly. Because, you see, you can become a Christian, you can become a believer Jew, you can become a Muslim, you can become a socialist, you can become a Zionist if you are not a Jew. And I asked myself, how somebody can become a Jew without being Orthodox or Reformist, without conversion? Somebody that doesn't believe in God, how can they join the party? And then I understood that it's a closed club. A non-Jew cannot become a Jew if he is secular, if he is not a believer.
Yeah.
I don't want to belong to clubs, exclusive clubs. As a descendant of a Jew, I suffered in the past too much. I don't want to belong to a club cannot join.
I'm trying to make sense of what you just said. Your way of protesting against the fact that the only way to join this exclusive club is via a religious mechanism. Your way to sympathize perhaps with those who can't join this exclusive club in any other way is by removing yourself from it.
Not to belong to exclusive club. I think in history, especially in modern history, exclusive clubs has definition. Sense of community that is exclusive is a bad sense of community. This is my point. Years I did identify myself with Jewishness because of the suffering of the past. I think that in the Western world, anti-Semitism politically, publicly, for the moment, disappeared. It exists in the Islam, in the radicalism of the Islam, maybe in the East Europe. I'm living half of the time in Europe, by the way.
In Western Europe, you don't think there are any anti-Semitic currents?
Not really from the Western. You have to understand, if somebody wants to understand what is the anti-Semitic century from the middle of the 19th century to the middle of the 20th century, when speaking today of anti-Semitism, it's a joke. because you cannot become a politician, not in England, not in France, not in the United States, and being anti-Semitic. You cannot become, like somebody in the radio and being anti-Semitic. Yes, there is an anti-Semitic on the march, especially with young Muslims. And it's very, very...
they just keep it to themselves. I mean, it's become politically incorrect to be anti-Semitic publicly, but there are some people that deep down are anti-Semitic.
I'm sure, for example. But, when the extreme right in England is so pro-Israeli and so pro-Jews, and when Marine Le Pen in France try to become a very, very good friend of Israel, I declare that anti-Semitism, the traditional, with the background of the Christian background, anti-Semitism, more or less disappeared. Only in Hungary, if you want, in East Europe, there is a political anti-Semitism active till now, but not in the Western world. There is with the Muslims, but it's a result of the conflict of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And it's something that bothers me a lot. Today, I'm living half of the time in France, and I don't believe that there is a political anti-Semitism. The question is what people feel about it. It's something that I cannot. Here and there, they discover very quickly that I'm for Israeli because the way of I'm speaking all this. Then I didn't till now meet really anti-Semitic, hidden anti-Semitic. But the problem is the public, the space, or the public space. There is not anti-Semitism in the public space in the Western world. For the moment. I don't know what will happen tomorrow. For me, being a Jew in the past was, belong to oppressed community. It's not the case today. This is the reason that I feel much more easier.
So that's the only parameter for belonging that you can think of in the case, other than being a religious Jew. But a non-religious Jew can only consider himself part of the Jewish people if they relate to the past of suffering and feel as in a community of oppressed people. That's the only way.
Yeah, the problem is with the Zionism that the only way of a lot of Jews in the world is to be a Jew by identifying themselves with the politics of the Israeli state. This is the majority of the people.
Yeah, but not just the politics, isn't it? It's the existence of a sociological majority of Jews in Israel, not just spiritually or the way they define and perceive themselves, but the fact that there is still a majority of Jews in one strip of land in the world that makes it sociologically a Jewish state, and therefore people have some kind of relationship with it.
And my government use it very, very good to apply a societate political in the Middle East. Then, if I'm looking of the result of this process of identifying with the state that the majority is Jewish and all this, that it's legitimate in the first look, it's not a problem for me. The problem is that all this is used to apply a politic of suicide politics of Israel today, and it's all me because I'm living it.
Suicide? That they're working, they're shooting their own foot, they're working against their own interests. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, the support of a lot of Jewish state of Israel in everything that Israel is doing is very negative for the future of the existence of Israel.
But there have been in the past many Jews who have been anti-Zionist and still consider themselves as Jewish.
Yeah.
Why don't you just consider yourself as a Jewish anti-Zionist?
First of all, because I think that anti-Semitism in the Western world disappeared. Secondly, I say that I am in Israel as a privileged person, and I insist I don't want to be. I think Jewish in the past because they were not privileged, because they lived in a Christian civilization. I cannot continue to live in Israel and define myself as a Jew. It is clear. Maybe tomorrow, if the Israeli state will be the state of its citizens.
No, but I think that your contention is with the co-optation, with the fact that the state of Israel and Zionism have hijacked Jewishness in a way.
And there is another thing very important. I think it's very, very surprising me that Zionism succeed to create the Israeli nation with the Israeli culture, daily culture, high culture, and all this, and they don't want to recognize this culture. They say the Jewish culture. When they are speaking about something else, Arik Einstein,
The singer.
The singer, the Israeli very singer.
Yeah, the iconic Israeli
The
singer.
iconic Israeli, even Netanyahu went to the funeral.
Yeah.
The Jewish in the world cannot identify with Eric Einstein like I'm doing it, and the Israelis are doing it. You understand? Then there is a specific Israeli culture.
But there's also a secular Jewish culture, isn't there? I mean, from Sholem Aleichem to Philip Roth and...
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is very important. But you touch something very, very... Sholem Aleichem with Philip Roth, it's not the same thing. Sholem Aleichem, Beshvi Zinger is the same thing. It's a Yiddish culture. One of the places in history that was created a real... specific Yiddish culture was in the East Europe. And I think that Philip Roth is one of the descendants of this culture, but he is not. You have to understand, Shalom Aleichem didn't write English, not Hebrew. You see? He wrote in Yiddish, like Beshvi Zinger wrote in Yiddish, and it was a very, very important Yiddish culture from Jewish origin. Now, this disappeared. It's died. It doesn't exist. Unfortunately, if you want, because of Bolshevism, because of Nazism, a lot of other things. But you cannot continue to speak. I think Philip Roth is one of the last of the last. You have to understand. Because there is not a specific Jewish daily cultural life in the United States. You understand? And if you don't have anti-Semitism, Jewishness, secular, will disappear. It can be longer or shorter.
But one thing that especially the American Jewish community has shown is that it's resilient over the years. It's perhaps shrinking. It's perhaps becoming much and more diverse than
we have
before.
The second generation after the Shoah and the Holocaust and all this. It's not a long time. But take the Jews in Germany before the destruction of the Jewishness in Europe. You see, they become German. They were German. Most of them, I don't know most because there is not a statistic, a lot of them didn't define themselves as Jews. They defined themselves as Germans. Only the anti-Semitic, the Nazis defined them as Jews. You have to understand.
What about Herzl, for example? He was an assimilated Jew and saw himself as a Jew.
Herzl became really a Jew because of anti-Semitism. It's very clear. Not only this, that Herzl wasn't a Jew, he was even a German nationalist that want to belong to the Aryan race even. When he understands that it's not possible, he became a Jew. By the way, he's a Jew like I'm a Turkish from point of view of culture, because he didn't know really Jewishness as religion, a deep religion. He didn't know really the Yiddish culture in the East. By the way, I don't believe that he liked it very much, like most of the Yekes, the German Jews that didn't like the culture of my parents and grandparents. And I repeat, in the East Europe, because of the historical condition, it was created some very important culture, specific culture of Jews. In Israel, the same thing. There is a specific culture, Israeli culture. But this culture is not the culture of most of Sheldon. He cannot speak with me in Hebrew.
But you're looking at the
anthropological aspect of daily life.
No, but the technicality of it, the language is one thing.
In language, eating. He cannot, hummus and trina, the Israeli food, is not a Jewish food. It's one of the things we took with the land from the Palestinians, as you know very well.
Yeah.
Then I repeat, it's not only language, it's jest, it's the way that we are speaking, both of us now in English, but it's a lot of things. Very, very important for an anthropologist to see you are a Israeli. You are not a Jew that is living in Vancouver. Okay, there is a
but myself as an Israeli Jew and the Jew from Vancouver, I'm Israeli, he's Canadian, but it's not identity is not a binary thing. You can have several identities.
I'm repeating in my book about this that identity is not a head. That you have only one. Then first of all, I'm an Israeli from Jewish origin. The reason that I insist not to be a Jew is the things that I explained before.
Yeah.
Politically, ideologically,
I see.
And also very important, a lot of people, even in my university, are looking for the DNA, a Jewish DNA. They cannot find a common things for all the Jews in the world. besides the DNA.
Yeah.
I'm against this philosophy.
Shlomo, one last question because we have to wrap up soon. Do you see yourself as a Canaanite? Just to say what it is. The Canaanite was a group of intellectuals in the 40s and 50s here in Israel who saw Zionism and Hebrew culture, Hebraic culture, as separate from 2,000 years of Jewish history, and so to go back to the pre-Jewish time in the Middle East and reinvent this sort of Canaanite, this indigenous culture. Do you subscribe to those ideas at all?
You see, I'm not a Canaanite, but I have to admit that it was some influence. But you know the difference between the Canaanite, that they lived, create, and try to imagine something that didn't exist yet. I'm living at the beginning of the 21st century in a real Israeli culture, bad or great or something. They, in the beginning of the end of the 40s and the beginning of the 50s, didn't live yet in a real, daily, very, very dynamic culture that I call it the Israeli culture.
Mm-hmm. All right, Professor Shlomo Sand, author of several books, including most recently, How I Stopped Being a Jew. It's published today in English by Verso Books. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
שהיא יפה
That was the Tel Aviv Review for this week. Thank you very much for listening. Also, big thanks to our guests. I'd like to thank Tammy Goldenberg, the technical producer of this show. Do join us again next week for another edition of the Tel Aviv Review. In the meantime, do follow us on Facebook and on Twitter, and do not hesitate to get in touch with your comments and suggestions at Gilad, Gilad, at tlv1.fm. Until then, Chag Sameach and goodbye.
Don't look at me, it's way too soon to see what's gonna be. Don't look at me. All my life I never knew what I could be, what I could do, then we were new. Ooh. You came along and made my life a song. One lucky day you came along. While I was searching for a ride, you came along, then we were new. Ooh. We can do what we want, we can live as we choose. You see, there's no guarantee, we've got nothing to lose. Don't look at me, I can't deny the truth. It's plain to see, don't look at me. All my life I never knew what I could be, what I could do, then we were new. Ooh. We can do what we want, we can live as we choose. You see, there's no guarantee, we've got nothing to lose. Don't look at me, it's way too soon to see what's gonna be. Don't look at me. All my life I never knew what I could be, what I could do, then we were new. Ooh. Then we were new. Do 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 do.